Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Arkansas Outdoors Roundup podcast. Today I have a reaction video for you. I was on YouTube not too long ago, and I came across, I should say, a YouTube channel called the Ozark Podcast, and a couple of guys there, and they talk about a lot of outdoor related topics. It is news. It does contain elements of news stories and things like that. But I think the broader scope of the podcast is to talk more about specific sorts of things like hunting and fishing and that sort of thing. So it does cover a lot of different topics. This podcast, my podcast, is more news specific, although I will also, diverge and go into other topics from time to time. But it's a really good podcast. I recommend you check it out. On this particular episode, they had two individuals from the Office of Outdoor Recreation, which is a new agency in the state of Arkansas. It's something Governor Sanders created back in 2021. And it works together with the Arkansas Game and Fish and other sorts of entities in state government. However, its primary focus is to promote and help develop economic infrastructure and basically boost the outdoor recreation that the state of Arkansas has to offer. So we're going to be listening to their interview, and I will be making comments throughout their discussion. Just some things that I noticed about what they said, and maybe even some things they didn't say. So I'll be commenting on that. And if you have any opinions about what they said or what I said, by all means, please check with, send me an email or leave a comment on this video. Again, this podcast is all about creating conversations around the Arkansas outdoors and looking out for the best interests of those natural places we have here in Arkansas. So without any more wait, let's get to it, and I hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you for being here.
Welcome back. We've got the special privilege of having two guests of honor with us today, and they have made the drive all the way up from the state of Arkansas's capital, Little Rock, Arkansas, to hang out with us and to talk about what they do. And so I will start by introducing them. We've got Catherine Andrews immediately to my left. Catherine is the director of the Office of Outdoor Recreation in Arkansas.
Okay, this is the new agency that Governor Sanders has created to focus, obviously, on outdoor recreation and to try to boost tourism in those areas.
Arkansas.
That's right.
I got it right?
You got it.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And then our other guest is the deputy director of the Office of Outdoor Recreation, and that is Miss Becky Flynn.
Yes,
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Glad y'all are here.
Glad you guys are here.
Thank you.
What is the Office of Outdoor Recreation, and what do you guys do? And kind of, I'm asking more questions again.
Great.
Why did you start it?
I'll start it from there. Okay, so
You just got to cut me off eventually sometimes.
the office was started in 2021 by then Governor Asa Hutchinson. He started it after a couple years of folks within Arkansas saying, hey, we obviously are the natural state. We have so much to offer when it comes to outdoor recreation. We need some office or agency or organization that helps propel that forward.
Okay, obviously it was Asa Hutchinson who began it, but Sarah Sanders has definitely increased and put more of an emphasis on it.
And the first Office of Outdoor Recreation was created in Utah in 2013 following the Bureau of Economic Analysis' first national report on the economic impact of outdoor recreation across the nation. So Utah was the first state that said, this is a huge part of our state's economy. We need to create an office to help, again, propel this industry, this economy within our state forward. And because of that, they now have the largest outdoor recreation economy in the nation, because they were the first one to really recognize that and take the reins on growing it. And so today there are 25 offices of outdoor recreation across the country. So this is still a fairly new concept within state government. So our office was created in 2021. So we're about 5 years old now. So completely new part of state government. Had to create it from scratch. There's no playbook. There's no rule book. So we had to sit down with our advisory board, which then was 10 people, titans in the industry across Arkansas, folks who have really built a name and placed a stake in what they do in their own respective outdoor recreation piece of Arkansas.
And were you
Okay, on that particular segment, things to note are the what she said there, these titans of the industry. So clearly they have a bit of a emphasis on the recreational businesses, and that seems to be kind of their main focus. At least that's kind of how I'm taking that. We'll see further on in the interview how if that's accurate or not, but I think it's fair to say that obviously they are looking at expanding tourism so as to generate income for the state, and they're going to use recreation, they're going to use the outdoor features that the state of Arkansas has to offer, and they're going to promote those in whatever ways they think they need to in order to generate those tax dollars.
You there in 2021?
I was.
Okay, so you've
I was the founding
you've been here the whole
member
time.
of the office. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Seen it from its inception, and it's grown a lot. And then when Governor Sanders took office in 2023, she tasked us with doubling the outdoor recreation economy in 10 years. And so that's our guiding light now. It was $3.5 billion to our economy in Arkansas, outdoor recreation was at the time. And so by 2032, our outdoor recreation GDP needs to be at $7 billion. Okay. Today, we're at $5 billion.
Hey.
Oh.
So we're getting closer.
Good work.
Cruising.
Yeah.
We're on.
That number, I think, has recently changed. I think they're looking at a total of $10 billion. I think she's going to mention $7 billion. But I think it's even higher than that.
On our way.
And a lot of the initiatives and projects and things that we do are working towards that goal.
We collaborate a lot across lots of state agencies. So we work with AEDC, we work with Game and Fish, we convene with a lot of those folks. But as far as where we're housed, it's with State Parks, Heritage, and Tourism. And a lot of our efforts coincide with those folks, of course.
Yeah.
For Arkansas, the top three for us are always hunting and fishing, boating, RVing is always at the top, ATVing, cycling, hiking, camping, climbing is coming up.
Yeah.
But those are the big buckets that move the needle. And then when it comes to all of our projects and initiatives and things that we work on, we know that those are the big buckets for Arkansas that drive that outdoor recreation economy. And so when it comes to infrastructure investments or working with the industry, we try to focus a little bit on those activities that we know are going to move the needle.
So obviously hunting, fishing, boating are going to be a big focus for these folks. She did mention hiking and climbing is starting to become more and more popular. She also, of course, mentioned cycling, which has been popular for a long time, and it's starting to become more popular. So, but I still imagine hunting and fishing and boating are going to be your top recreational activities for the foreseeable future.
How do you guys go about investing and like accelerating? Because I think of you guys as like trying to pour lighter fluid on a fire that's burning versus like starting a fire from scratch. What does that look like in your world to actually like, let's get this thing going and really get it soaring?
That is a great question. And when we first got started, we had to figure out how we were going to differentiate ourselves from a state parks, from a game and fish, from a lot of the initiatives that Arkansas Economic Development Commission does. And so that is a really good analogy, pouring lighter fluid on an already existing fire just to make it blow up. That's a lot of what we do all day, every day.
Yeah. Just make things blow up.
Just blow things up.
But some examples, I mean, we like to say it's our job to know what's happening across the industry in Arkansas and in our communities, and what's happening all across state agencies. So we're able to pick and pull and convene people together in ways that one state agency might be doing something, but this community over here needs to connect to them. And so we convene a lot of groups like that.
Okay, right there. It's interesting to note that they seem to be focusing a lot on networking, connecting different groups with other groups that have maybe a similar interest or goal, and nothing. That's a good thing to do. It's a smart play to do. So that seems to be a lot of at the heart of kind of what they're doing here.
We are now collaborating with the Governor's Conference on Tourism. It's now the Governor's Conference on Tourism and Outdoor Recreation. We started the Outdoor Recreation Summit 3 years ago, and first year, second year, third year finally became Governor's Conference on Tourism and Outdoor Rec. But for the first time ever, convened industry folks, state government, federal government folks, nonprofit partners in a room for the first time, about 150 people, to talk about how do we grow the outdoor recreation economy together? Mm-hmm. How do we balance conservation, recreation, tourism?
How much of the just the tourism money that you see coming into the state is tied to outdoor recreation? Because I hear tourism in Arkansas and I just think outdoor recreation. Like, I know there's other things to do, obviously,
right?
But that's where my head goes, pretty instantly. Is it a pretty large percentage of the tourism industry as a whole is recreating outdoors, or is it smaller than I may be thinking? I don't know.
No, you're spot on, and it's a huge percentage of that number. I don't know it off the top of my head, and I will say our 2025 Tourism Impact Report should be coming out soon, so it will show that. But what I will say is tourism has really leaned in on the natural state, and not just as a moniker, but every photo, every video, everything we're talking about is going to have some sort of outdoor recreation component to it. And, we have incredible food and music. Like, we are a diverse state when it comes to tourism offerings, but what we're really promoting as Arkansas is the natural state, is these really incredible opportunities to get outside year round. You can find something really great to do in Arkansas 365 days a year. So that is, it was a little bit of a bold move a few years ago when we were like, nope, we're going all in on outdoor recreation, but it's paid off to Arkansas.
Yeah, there you have it. I mean, they are really amping up the focus on outdoor recreation here in Arkansas, and the numbers clearly show that it's increasing year after year. And we'll talk on the back end here about some of the implications of that, but it is being heavily promoted. More and more people are starting to find us, I guess you could say, and it's going in the direction they want it to go.
We've got a lot of really rural places, but they're seeing the benefits of the tourism when that really impacts their local businesses and economies. You really see that. And we have incredible resources and assets. Y'all know that better than anyone. But yeah, it's a huge percent of what we see in tourism.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do you guys work with different agencies within the state, where you've got like a conservation agency that is like game and fish, or you might have some of like the trails of hiking or biking might cut through like timber, national forest, things like that. You might work with forestry. I'm trying to think of some other examples, but like different agencies that are within Arkansas government already. How do y'all collaborate?
That is a good question. So there's a couple examples that we can talk about. First is the Trails at Mena. So first lift served bike park opened a couple of weeks ago up in Bella Vista. The second lift serve bike park is going to open in Mena, Arkansas in a couple of years in 2028.
Okay. There it is right there. It's little spoiler alert. It's going to be bigger than the bike trail up here in Northwest Arkansas. At least the lift will be. And I imagine they have some big plans for those trail systems down there too.
So this is a big, huge project for our agency and for the state of Arkansas as a whole. So once it's done in 2028, it will be the largest lift-served downhill mountain bike park in the country. And it's significant.
The one
in Mena.
Okay.
So it's significant because you can ride it.
Colorado and like places out west where there's like ski resorts and
by land size.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Very cool.
Total elevation is 1,300 feet from bottom of the lift all the way up to the top of the mountain. As comparison, the Oz Trails Bike Park is only 300 feet.
Okay.
So this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And that it's a partnership between Arkansas State Parks, the National Forest Service, and the city of Mena. And we have been working very closely with Arkansas Game and Fish Commission because there is a WMA there, and we have visited very closely with backcountry hunters and anglers to try to appease a lot of concerns from local hunters in the area and try to figure out how we can cohesively balance cyclists, hikers, mountain bird watchers with the hunting community.
Okay, right there. That's something that is kind of a key point in my thinking. You've got this massive bike park coming into Mena, and then they've already met with a lot of hunters and other people in that area because they're rightly concerned about not the economic, but the ecological impact that such a place would have on the national forest areas and how it will affect the hunting and the habitat and all of these things. And that is a very important thing to keep in mind, because my fear is you're going to build this big thing and people are going to obviously come to it, because remember the old adage, if you build it, they will come, and they're going to show up. And of course, in this area, they're going to have to, and I think she'll talk about this a little later, they're going to have to improve the infrastructure in the Mena area to accommodate the influx of people to the area to enjoy this mountain bike park. Well, when you start doing that, you're going to put a lot of pressure on those other areas down there. You're going to have more issues with crowding, pollution, water control, things like that. We know, how will the streams be affected? How will it affect animal behavior? Will it scare the animals out of the area entirely? Things like that. Not to mention, when it comes to infrastructure, they're probably going to have to build maybe some more gravel roads to get to new places. And again, when you start putting roads into national forests, with a lot of people in that area, those roads will get traveled. You'll have more and more of a human footprint in those areas, and you'll have all the effects of that footprint showing up in these areas here. So it's not going to be anything. The downside of this won't be anything that just shows up all at once. I think it's going to have kind of a little bit of a creep effect. That is, you build it, it starts out a certain way, then it becomes more and more popular. You're going to have more and more things done, and then soon the area just gets more and more congested with more and more of these outdoor activities. Hunting, fishing. You have more people coming in, and it's just going to the ecology of the landscape. How is that going to be affected? What sorts of deleterious effects is all that going to have on that area? The best way to protect an area is by and large, to keep it isolated, at least to a pretty high degree. The wilderness factor is going to be eroded greatly. The idea of isolation and solitude and things like that is just gonna go away. I'm afraid you're gonna have just people everywhere crawling all over, because now they can. They don't have to hike so many miles to get to a hunting spot or a fishing spot or something like that. Now you can just drive right up to it. So I'm afraid you're going to have those sorts of things happen to the Mena area, particularly the Ouachita Mountains and places like that. And of course, this is my fear for all of Arkansas, is that when you when you build something near a wildlife management area, that's going to increase foot traffic. It's going to increase a lot of things that you probably don't want near those areas. Yeah, it may generate some tax dollars for you, but what are going to be the long-term downsides to doing that? Because once you let people in there, they're not going to go away. There's just going to be more and more and more. I have commonly used the example to explain this point. I've been up here for 25 years, and I used to go to the Buffalo River, all the time. Still do, of course. But I have seen, and I think many others have seen, just this crazy influx of people. They found it. They want to enjoy it. It's beautiful. Of course they do. But you have so many people coming to it. It's just crazy. You have just nothing but a congested river of kayaks and tubes and everything else. And sadly, it's starting to look a lot like the Elk River. If you've ever been down the Elk River in Missouri, that is a party river. That is a river where, it's just kind of a free-for-all, honestly. It has some great smallmouth fishing. I've done some good smallmouth fishing there, but it's just overcrowded. It's just wacky, and I'm afraid something very similar to that is going to happen to the Ouachitas with this new bike park. So let's continue.
Yeah.
Big projects like that and say, okay, here's the investment that's going to happen. How do we design it in a way that really supports all the communities?
Yeah.
So we sat down in a room with the backcountry hunters and angler folks, with Game and Fish, with our state parks team, with us, all sitting around a table looking at a map. How do we figure this out together? Mm-hmm. Which I think is pretty unique and could be a model for other states across the U.S., and I'm proud of that. There are other examples. Before we leave Mena, so not saying this is going to happen, but picture it. I'm not necessarily a mountain biker. I'm a hunter, but I am going to ride the lift and go up to the top, have a beer, and then come back. But for our hunters, imagine going and taking the lift, having all of your gear, going farther out into the backcountry than you normally would be able to, coming back with your harvest on the lift, coming back down. So we're talking about that. We're having conversations about what could this be like.
Wow, that's that's what I mean. You're going to make access to a lot of these hunting areas easy. And when you make things easy for people to do, more people are going to do it. I don't want to be a gatekeeper type, but I think there are things that are, that need to be looked at to make it just a little more difficult for people to get into, because it will keep some of the pressure off of these or out of these areas, whether it be for hunting or fishing or hiking or whatever. You don't want to turn these areas into easy access points for anybody and everybody just to drive up to and say, hey, I'm here, and then, carry on. So I just worry about them creating such easy access to all of these places that really do need to be protected for the long term. So, I'm not really comfortable with what she said there. I think it's a little worrisome.
You can see in the numbers like less and less people hunt than used to. I think COVID helped a lot get people outside, and people started like fishing more and spending more time in that way. But there's been a gradual shift, and the more that we see young kids growing up and they're spending a lot of time on an iPad, and they're maybe it's not video games and technology, maybe it's more like travel sports, and like their whole family travels around the country. That's taken them away from time in the outdoors. All of that creates these shifts and these dynamics of like cultures change and people change and behaviors change. So I'm just curious kind of like what you guys see where you sit in terms of maybe the last 20 years leading up to then 5 years ago, like how have things changed?
One of the biggest things that I am proud of, and I come from the economic development world, is that outdoor recreation and quality of life is now a core component in Arkansas of the economic development strategy for the state and for our local communities. So when I first came on,
the quality of life factor is important. I agree. That's going to be a big draw. But what happens to these places when you build these things and everybody comes in? Well, the overall quality of life is going to lessen. It's not going to be as good. I'll just use Rogers and Bentonville, Arkansas as an example. Like I said, I've been up here 25 years, and I remember this is just a couple of small towns. Yeah, we had Walmart and Tyson and J.B. Hunt, but all in all, people weren't moving in here and overwhelming the area. Well, fast forward to today, that's exactly what's happening. The best comparison I can make is that it's becoming something like a Dallas suburb almost. There are certain times of the day I will not get out on the road. Just to go 6 miles down the road can take me 45 minutes during certain parts of the day. It's ridiculous. Driving up and down I-49 between Rogers and Fayetteville, in the morning commute and in the afternoon commute, that you're running a gauntlet. It's a scary time. There are accidents on that stretch of road every single day. And there's been some bad ones too. So it's, she talks about quality of life. She talks about building infrastructure and all these things. Well, when you do that to these communities, you are going to, deteriorate the quality. Part of the quality there is the isolation, the solitude, the small town feel. When you start doing this, you're going to create towns like they have in Colorado. These towns that started out really small, and then everybody and their dog moved there, and now it's crazy expensive and it's crazy crowded and all those sorts of things. So, if you build it, they will come. There are consequences to that way of thinking, and that has to be part of it. And I think a lot of people are aware of that. I'm probably not saying anything new here, but it seems to be that the thinking in Little Rock seems to be they want to put tax dollar generation over those other fears that I just went through. So let's let her continue here.
And I came from that world, so I had all the connections, and I would call folks and I would be like, hey, outdoor recreation, let's make it happen. Let's build some of this infrastructure. They'd be like, what are you talking about? No. But now people are calling us. And I think
why are they saying no? That seems like why wouldn't somebody say no to that?
I think traditionally traditionally economic development was chasing smokestacks, large scale, huge industrial projects, which is still a core part of economic development. But now I think people are starting to realize that people who graduate from college, they're moving to places that they want to go live, and then they're finding a job. Whereas 50 years ago, when you graduated from college, you were moving somewhere for a job. People are starting to understand that outdoor recreation is now a business development, a workforce retention strategy. It's part of public health and wellness. I mean, when Arkansas is at the bottom of a lot of the health and wellness things out there, we certainly punch above our weight when it comes to outdoor recreation. And so that's a place where we can win, and people are really starting to see that, especially in rural Arkansas and rural America, when folks are moving to more urban centers, and rural mayors, rural county judges want to keep folks in town. Outdoor recreation, quality of life initiatives are the way to do that in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely happened in Northwest Arkansas. You got a lot of these small towns around here. You have Cave Springs. It used to be a know-nothing little town down there. I've been going through that area for years and years and years, and now they have these mega houses built down there. These crazy, $400,000 homes, golf courses, and if you look out toward north and west of here, you've got Centerton. It's blown up. Again, housing prices are crazy high. Of course, in Bentonville, if you go out toward Rogers, the same sort of deal. And you go west, closer to the Oklahoma border, places like Highville, Arkansas, Gentry, Arkansas, Gravette, Decatur, these places are starting to see a huge, well, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but they are seeing steady increases in population out there. People are moving in that direction to live and to go to school and to work and those sorts of things. So that's what's happening to these rural areas. And the question is, when do they become not rural areas anymore? Okay, where's the line that we go from rural to suburban, I guess is what I'm asking. So I think a lot of small town people worry about that. They kind of like their solitude and that sort of stuff. And then, you see this constant influx. I've heard people out in this area say just that very thing, that, too many people coming in. Well, it's true. There are too many people coming in. It's overwhelming the system. These little towns were never designed to accommodate this number of people, and they're trying to fix it now to make it better. But I mean, how much can you really do? I don't know.
Another piece of that you kind of touched on is the participation piece of it. It was something that's really interesting. Outside Magazine recently said that on average, prisoners are spending more time outside than kids in school.
Prisoners, like inmates.
Inmates in the yard
spend more time in the yard than kids do at recess, which is alarming.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure why that's alarming. Kids go to school. It's always been the case that you're going to spend more time, in the building rather than outside. It's kind of always been that way. If kids are not, why should they be spending, a whole bunch of time outside? I mean, I like being outside, and that sort of thing. But I mean, you're there 7 hours in a day, and you have athletics, and you got band, and you got all these other things going on. It's not like they're just glued to a desk the whole time. So I don't know why that's alarming necessarily. If kids want to get outside, they go home from school, they can go outside. And most of these kids are involved in something, some sort of athletics or something after school anyway. Well, at least a lot of them are, obviously not all, but I'm not really alarmed by that particular statistics.
And even more of a reason for us to make sure that we're getting young folks outside, because we are competing with organized sports, with the screen. And so we have to make sure that we're engaging the youth in the outdoors. And participation numbers across the United States are changing all the time.
Yeah.
We're seeing participation. Outdoor Industry Association releases participation numbers every year. We're seeing participation in outdoor recreation grow year over year. But what we're seeing, if you dig a little bit more into the numbers, is the core participation is decreasing while the casual participant is increasing. So what does that mean? I mean, we're seeing less people like climb Everest or go hunting every weekend, but we're seeing more people go out on a walk. We're seeing more people use the trail by their house and push their kids in a stroller outside, or maybe go to the fishing pier and wet a line. But we're seeing those folks, more casual participants, become part of the industry. And so as we look at that in Arkansas, as we're advertising the natural state and we're saying this is a great place to get outside, really making sure that we have ways for people to do that. So one of the
casual participation versus core participation, core being a specific activity, hunting, fishing, biking, that sort of thing. Casual, just walking on a greenway trail, going to a park, that sort of thing. Those sorts of infrastructure developments, I'm all for. I like if you take a town, a city, the more parks you can build, the more trails, bike paths you can build. That's great. That's a very important thing. My fear is not that. My fear is when you're going into these other more remote places that are more isolated, that have a lot of ecology that can be damaged, forests that can be damaged, things like that. When you start moving into those areas and start developing large-scale projects that in those areas, that's where a lot of damage can be done. Building small parks, building more bike trails in towns and cities, that's perfectly fine. That's great.
Efforts that we have lifted up this year is called Guide Arc. And so that is a guide verification program and done through the Office of Outdoor Recreation, where outdoor guides that guide in hunting, fishing, paddling, cycling, hiking and camping, climbing, they can go on our website and they can enter their credentials. So it's going to be like their guide license, their insurance, their business info, their safety certifications, all the things that we know are going to make a really high quality trip for folks coming in wanting a guided service. And so we review their qualifications. They're different for every activity, but we review that and we're like, yep, these folks have everything that's needed for a guide in Arkansas. And we send them a verification stamp that they can use in their own promotional materials. But we created a directory on arkansas.com.
That's a really interesting thing. They're wanting to create, I guess, a registry of guide services, which is sounds good. Yeah, it'd be very helpful. I can see how a guide service in fishing works. I could see how a guide service could help with regard to hunting, that sort of thing. But a guide service for hiking is going to be a different sort of animal, because when you have a guide for fishing, say, you just hop in the boat and he knows where the fish are and he baits your hook, hands you the pole, and you catch the fish. Hunting is probably kind of similar, a little more demanding, I would think. You've got to go into these places, but you got ATVs and all that sort of stuff to carry your gear. If you're going to go hiking, you don't really need a guide for a 2-3 mile hike. That's not going to be a thing, I don't think. If the guide is taking you on a section hike of the Ozark Highland Trail, 20 miles, that person's going to have to walk 20 miles. I just don't see that being a service many people are going to be asking for. Could be wrong, but that would be new to me. I'll just put it that way. So having hiking guides, I don't know if that really works. Having hiking groups, things like that makes a lot of sense. People just get together on a weekend and they just go hike a certain area. You don't pay anything. You just show up. Hopefully someone there knows where they're going, and and you go. But I'm not so sure a hiking guide makes much sense. But hey, I'm no expert. I just haven't heard of people asking, hiring someone to take them on a hike. I have heard of hunting guides, fishing guides. I have heard of those, but I'm not so sure about. I don't know what the other types of guides that she's that she's talking about. I haven't looked at the list. I don't know what's on there, but that's just something that I noticed when she said that.
On that, guides, do all of I know like fishing guides have to have a certain kind of license. Do all of those different kind of activities that you mentioned all have to have a license?
It varies by activity. So
Okay.
hunting guides and fishing guides operating in Arkansas have to have a guide license through Game and Fish. That just applies to hunting and fishing. The rest of the activities are not. They don't have to hold a license, but
Yeah.
they have to hold different certifications.
Okay.
The
vetting
and so
process
like
is a
a
little bit
climbing
different.
guide is going to need certification through the American Mountain Guides Association.
Okay.
So it's very specific to the activity. So we spend a lot of time doing a bunch of research because while we like to do all of those things, we are not experts in all of those things.
Right.
And so we talk to experts who are. And so we were like, okay, here's how we build this out and this. So it's been a learning opportunity for
Yeah.
us, which has been really cool.
And what's cool about this is it's the first of its kind across the country.
Yeah.
So
Really?
Arkansas is leading the way in helping elevate the guide industry in Arkansas in a way that no other state is doing, because we listened to guides across the state who have said we need a way to differentiate the guides who have all the right credentials, safety certifications, insurance, and we need a way to showcase.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think of people who are spending the majority of their time in the outdoors, people who are closest to like habitat and natural places, like those should be elevated because they're like our pulse on what's happening out there. And they, take people into places where otherwise you might struggle. You don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So I think anytime that we can support the guide community, it's a big win.
And it's
That's the thing that here they are promoting outdoor activities, and they're wanting people to get out and enjoy the Arkansas outdoors. And also at the same time, they're talking about guides. I think what happens is is you have people showing up who want to go do these things, and they don't do the proper research. They don't do the proper preparation. If they hire a guide, they think, oh, the guide's just going to do all the stuff for me and I just kind of have to show up. There's that kind of mentality out there. Are the guides going to be teaching leave no trace principles? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And another thing I could see happening is if you hire a guide, you go out there and say, you're duck hunting and you don't shoot a duck, or you don't catch fish, or you don't shoot a deer. What happens then? Are people going to be filing complaints? Are you going to get bad reviews? I understand the safety side of it, but I think a lot of these guide services are wanting to block out people who, may have a lot of knowledge, be very good, hunters and fishermen and stuff, but don't maybe have these certifications. Maybe they want to block them out so the business will come to them. It's kind of a protectionist kind of thing, and that's why these other individuals want there to be a guide service list that you kind of have to go through. I wonder if that's going to be like a requirement in the future. If you're going to guide, and charge someone, I guess, you got to have liability insurance for that, and those sorts of things. I don't know. It could get messy. I don't know how it would play out necessarily, but anyway.
A special experience, and I mean, it's something that we've all experienced. But if to take somebody out and to say to have that experience with wild places and to be able to hold that as part of your Arkansas experience is what we really want to promote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
I always want more participation data, and it's so hard to like. It's
very
just difficult to get.
Like what
You have
activities
to
are
survey
people participating in?
Yes. How? Yes.
So like I went duck hunting this year, deer hunting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to see that, and then like how often they're participating, but just in Arkansas. Like you see these national landscape studies, but what does it look like for our state? We have a lot of big trail builders in Arkansas that now work outside of the state, nationally, even internationally, but do we have the workforce to maintain those trails? And so looking at and guides and outfitters and retail, just ensuring that we're preparing for the hospitality side. So we've got research on workforce numbers on our website. There's a huge, there's a whole section of economic impact. So you can look at all these numbers and you can like look at your region of the state and click on it and it'll show how many people work in the outdoor recreation industry in your region or your county. So it really does break it down.
What would be the biggest area of the state for outdoor recreation?
For employment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley.
Okay.
In Central.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say two things.
Yeah, those are the exact on my first podcast on tourism. Those are the three areas that they had on their graphic that I mentioned. So I think the Central Arkansas area had something like $2 billion. And then you had Northwest Arkansas, 1 point something billion. And of course, Fort Smith and Northwest Arkansas is kind of in that same area. And then the third place went to Hot Springs with like a little over $900 million.
First is the infrastructure.
Okay.
So when we learn about what people want to do, immediately our minds go to, okay, let's help build that. So the infrastructure piece of it, what grants are available and out there to help build more places to go squirrel hunting.
Okay.
Build. I mean, that mentality worries me. I'm sorry. It just does, because people start chasing the dollar and they put conservation and these other things on the back burner. They're always going to be looking for a compromise. Well, we can give up a little bit of this conservation, in hopes of generating X amount of dollars over here. So, like I said, I think it has a little bit of a creep effect. And then, 5 years, we're going to develop this area too, which was right, it's, kind of close to the other area we developed 5 years ago. And again, it's just going to kind of slowly make its way into these environments that, these forests and other places that need to be protected. You're just going to have the business side of recreation taking over the conservation side.
Stations to clean your squirrel.
Picture it, squirrel merch.
Squirrel merch.
Alerting every retailer in their region to just go wild on squirrel merch.
Your people love
the
squirrels.
tourism
like
people
T-shirts with squirrels on them.
Yeah.
Hats.
Squirrel festivals.
Okay.
Squirrel race.
Got one of those. Springdale, Arkansas.
We do have
Squirrel
a squirrel
eating
squirrel
contest.
cook-off,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it would be infrastructure and tourism, the economic development piece of that.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of work Game and Fish would need to do to build a squirrel habitat, but we would be like, let's spend some of this habitat money on squirrel. So it would help us advise each of those.
Yeah. The question comes from Brad Cordell of the Holler. Hey, Brad. That camera, not that one. His question is, what are your funding sources and percentages of spending that is coming from each? For example, does any hunting and fishing license revenue make its way to non-hunting or conservation activities? If revenue is from general sales taxes, is it spread evenly or is it weighted toward one activity or another? So generally, like funding for you guys, a lot of the stuff that you do, where does it come from? And then two, how do you guys go about like allocating to different things?
That is a really good question. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
So the just general operations for Office of Outdoor Recreation within Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, our funding comes from general revenue from the state.
Okay. When you say general revenue, you're talking like sales tax revenue. It's taxes, right?
Well, yeah, state sets a budget.
Right.
Yes, like the state budget, overall state budget that funds
Okay.
all the constitutional offices in the state.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with us being a part of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, our operational funding comes from general revenue. And so it's interesting because we've got like state parks and heritage and tourism, and then there's us, the Office of Outdoor Rec. And so we are part of all of that, but there's also Amendment 75, which is the 1/8 cent sales tax. 45% of that goes to state parks, 45% to game and fish, a small portion to heritage, keep Arkansas beautiful. So there's different facets of that, but a lot of that money goes to state parks, and they use that for infrastructure development. But no, we do not get any direct revenue. Our office does not from like license sales or anything like that Game and Fish collects, but we get general revenue. So all the elected officials in the state of Arkansas make these decisions of, okay, yes, we are going to fund this priority with this amount of money in this office, this agency. And so when we say general revenue, that's
in general.
Okay, that's good to know about what the funding sources are for this particular office. We know that the licenses generate a lot of money for the game and fish. That I think is well known, but I wasn't sure about their particular funding. So it comes from general revenue, as well as amendment, what did you say, 75, I think is what the amendment was. They get some money from that too.
Cool. You guys have a big task on your hands. You guys look across the state of Arkansas. We obviously talk a lot about the Ozarks. You guys look across the entire state. I'm curious, when you think about what we invest in, when you have all these funding sources, the money comes in, and you think about allocating them to different user groups, I imagine you're using a lot of that data that you're talking about to make those decisions, to have an informed decision. But when you think about like broad sweeping, futuristic looking of like what do we want the outdoor recreation economy to look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think when you ask different people that, you're going to get some different answers. I think people look at Arkansas as a recreation destination, but when you think of a recreation destination, the protection and conservation side of recreation is not going to be the main emphasis. It's not going to be of main importance. When you think of Arkansas recreation, you're thinking of hotels and activities and things of that sort, using the natural resources and having people, partake in those, and the money generated around that. And I'm just really afraid that the conservation and protection of the natural resources in Arkansas is just going to be put on the back burner, because the building of all these other things to generate money is going to just be the number one priority. And that's kind of where my issue is, I guess, with all of this.
In the state of Arkansas, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, for our kids and their kids, like what is the goal, and what are you like? What do you personally want to see within that? Being that there are different user groups and there are different activities, what would be your goal?
Yeah, I think helping develop infrastructure that allows different user groups and activities access to those. And
see, there it is right there. To build infrastructure for different user groups to do those activities.
And so looking at the landscape, and ultimately, I could answer it from Becky Flynn's perspective, but it is, communities approach us with ideas because they say, our community loves to fish and we bank fish on this pond every year, but what we would really love is in ADA accessible fishing pier. And we're like, fantastic, we have this grant opportunity. Or maybe they're like, we have this incredible crag that we really want to install climbing infrastructure on because we have a scholastic climbing league at our local school. And so understanding that there's nuance to that and that across the state we have different interests. And rather than us saying, here's exactly what we're getting, but we want to hear what communities want. And we understand that it's different in different places. But also, I think we know based on the data that boating and fishing are leading the way in Arkansas, hunting, shooting, trapping. And so knowing that, we understand a little bit about participation. A lot of that can come from manufacturing or retail, but a lot of that is participation in these activities. And so understanding that we need to continue developing those and what people are looking for to get outside. So we let a lot of times the interest in the data inform those choices as far as what we're granting. And then what we're spending money on, you know, our sister division, state parks, looks at, all right, which parks are busy and which parks might need some more trail or a new restroom facility, or what are we, you know, using our funding on that really benefits what people are looking for, because at the end of the day it's for those folks. And because of Amendment 75, all of our state parks are free, and that's not the case everywhere, and especially not a state park system that is the quality of Arkansas State Park.
Okay, one thing before we move on. She mentioned climbing there. I remember back in the spring, this past spring, I went to a really cool bluff line that we hiked along, and it's a very, very popular place for rock climbers as well. And along the bluff line, you could see all of these bolts and places where rock climbers have attached these little chains and whatnot on these surfaces. So it just looks ugly. And so, you know, as recreation and as that particular participation user group grows, I'm afraid we're just going to see more and more of these really cool bluff lines just become big rocks for people to climb. And the aesthetic beauty of the area again will take a back seat. So that's just something I just thought of when I was listening to her talk about the participation data and you know, who's doing what and all of that.
I think, yeah, from my perspective, it would be making sure that all kids in Arkansas have an understanding of conservation, of what it means to be outside, even if that's a local park, riding their bike down the street, because the more people that we get into the outdoors, the more likely they are going to want to invest in conserving it.
That's a testable hypothesis, I guess. My experience has been the more people in the outdoors does not necessarily guarantee more conservation. In fact, you could even argue that the opposite is true. Well, maybe not the opposite, but the more people out there, the more trash you're going to have, the more issues you're going to have with protecting the environment. So I think people want to enjoy these natural resources, these places in nature. They want to enjoy them. They want to recreate in them. But to conserve them requires a whole different mindset. You have to go about things differently, and it takes more time. It takes more preparation. And I just don't see a majority of the people who recreate here taking the time and energy to do all that. I just don't think that just exposing kids to the outdoors is going to lead you to kids who have a conservation mentality. Maybe some, but I think by and large, people are just there to enjoy it and move on, and conservation is really not part of their thinking.
And so 20 years from now, to me, kind of building on what Becky has said, is that people across the U.S. are coming to Arkansas, and it's not like oh, you're going to Arkansas? It's like, oh yeah, you're going to Arkansas to go mountain biking, or oh, you're going to Arkansas to go duck hunting, or oh my gosh, cool, I can't wait to go and do that. It's a household name to folks like Colorado is to people in Arkansas. And so that to me is what I want to see 20 years from now. I want to see places that I can take my kids to and go out and have fun and play.
Yeah.
That's another thing too that I would hope is that people have a better understanding of what Arkansas has to offer when it comes to outdoor recreation. We have the mountain biking capital of the world, the duck hunting capital of the world, the trout capital of the United States, world record brown trout. We have the highest waterfall between the Rockies and the Appalachians, the only state where you can naturally hunt both an elk and an alligator and a bear in the same state. Thousands of miles of hiking trails, over 600,000 acres of lakes, the nation's first national river, the Buffalo, the start of the world's longest bayou. I mean, on and on and on and on. We have so much to be proud of here in Arkansas. And I think telling that story, the storytelling piece of it, and the pride in what we have here in Arkansas, I hope 20 years from now, everybody in Arkansas can tell that.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, there you have it. Couple of, I guess, closing comments. Well, first of all, I hope you found this educational, and I hope you found it useful when thinking about how recreation and how the outdoors is viewed by our state government. It is really being viewed right now, in my opinion, more through an economic lens than a conservation lens. So that's a little bit of a concern. But I think overall, it's something to keep an eye on about what trends are going to be emerging over the next few years. If you are an outdoors person, it really would be educational for you to check with this office to get the stats and the information from them. And, you know, unfortunately, though, I'm afraid a lot of the official statistics coming out of state capitals in certain parts of the country are might be a little fudgy. So I'm, in this day and age, the numbers, you got to check your sources to make sure that what you're seeing is accurate. Don't just take that particular bit of information, as being the complete truth. Look at other indicators of tourism effects and things of that sort. I guess that's what I'm kind of trying to say there. Anyway, I hope you found this, again, educational and useful. It was a little long. I apologize for that, but I did think it was important to go through this information bit by bit. I will put a picture, I guess maybe right up here, a link to that particular podcast so you can go on your own and check out these guys and listen to what they have to say. Like I said, they have some interesting topics and they talk to some interesting people. And as far as recreation, the future of recreation in Arkansas, we'll just have to wait and see and hope for the best. But I do have some real concerns. I'm sure I'm not alone. I bet a lot of other people do as well. And we'll just have to keep an eye on it. But this is a good first start, a good place to kind of get a baseline on what's happening right now. So as the future unfolds, we'll be able to see what direction our state government plans to go when it comes to recreating in Arkansas and to protect and conserve Arkansas natural resources. Okay, that's it for this episode. I appreciate you hanging out this long, and I will see you in episode 4, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. Until then, take care and stay safe.